Hello everybody, and I thought I'd make a little video on wrestling profiles. Now, professional wrestling I think is a great medium, but oftentimes people are ripped off, and sometimes the people that deserve the most credit don't get the credit they deserved. Now, one thing I want to do is I want to talk about, there's been this renaissance lately of, you got Mikey Whiplash, you got Bray Wyatt, especially Bray. Bray had the Wyatt family, the way he talks, his mannerisms, his poses. People give Bray all this credit for creating something, and everybody credited, like Jake the Snake Roberts, or say Mikey Whiplash, for these things, and there's only one person to credit for it. It is a man who is considered so controversial that in WWE's universe they never bring him up, they never bring up his name, and he is a decorated wrestler. He was a wrestler who was able to reinvent himself. He had wrestled for the NWA, WCW, WWF as a manager and announcer, left, went to ECW, went to WCW, and was a United States Heavyweight Champion, Tag Team Champion, wrestled tons of different varieties of people, went back to ECW, and ECW was a 3-time world champion, former Tag Team Champion, went to the WWF, was Hardcore Champion 23 times, went to TNA and became a World Champion. I'm talking about Raven. Raven is the emphasis of a cult leader, and yet he got some of his stuff from Sullivan, but Raven reinvented the wheel. Raven is what a 1950s heel would look like today. Raven was a smart man, had an incredible mind for the business, but for some reason, and I've never understood it, Vince McMahon never wanted to push him. Now, at the time before he came into the World Wrestling Federation, because I'm going to focus on that for a minute, when he was coming into the WWF, he literally was supposed to come in and feud with Kane. If he would have feuded with Kane, maybe his career would have been different, but Vince didn't see him in that light, apparently, and he pushed him down. Had him feud with Jerry Lawler. When you feud with Jerry Lawler, you're not going to go anywhere. And then there are several times where he was advertised to wrestle for the Intercontinental title, the European Championship, anything, and they just kept him in the hardcore division. Oh, he's from ECW, he's a hardcore wrestler. When anybody who watched Raven wrestle, he was not a full hardcore wrestler. Raven was a great talent in that ring. His interviews and promos were like above anybody else. He had soft-spoken, he had great promos, and they were always different and unique. And it's something every time I see Bray Wyatt, where he does the crucifix pose, which Raven's the guy that did that pose for the longest time. And then I saw a lot of times things that Raven would do, WWE would do. Like the whole crucifixion of Austin on Undertaker's symbol. Raven did that years prior in ECW. Now granted, his was more controversial, but Raven truly was somebody who, his moves, he could wrestle really well. His moveset was really good. And then when he got delegated to Sunday Night Heat, he was doing this really cool gimmick with the 7 Deadly Sins and using different jobber talents to invoke these sins. And Raven was always really good. And I just never understood why the only company he never got a push was in WWF. Now when he was in WCW, he got a push. And the flock has to be brought up. Without the flock, there would be no Wyatt family. The Wyatt family is a complete ripoff of the flock. I don't care who agrees with me and who doesn't. Because Raven always had his lackeys do his work for him. And the flock was like talent. You had Chris Kanyon in there. You had Billy Kidman. You had Sick Boy. You had Perry Saturn. Lodi didn't have a lot of talent. You had Scotty Riggs in there. You had Ron Reese. You had Lodi. Raven had all these good matches. He wrestled Benoit, Mysterio, Goldberg, DDP, and him had a really good feud. Raven was really smart. Like, he would always come up with these interesting things. And when he was able to really let go and do whatever he felt was in TNA. In TNA, he really was able to, he created all these matches. No Surrender Dog Collar match. Raven's Clockwork Orange House of Fun is like an awesome match. You had Hangman's Horror, which was dog collars on 4 different sides of the ring. You put the dog collar around somebody's neck and you throw them over. Raven there, he had The Gathering, which was Julio De Niro. You had Mickey James, and you had CM Punk. And then in Ring of Honor, Raven and Punk were having this blood feud. It's the feud that put Ring of Honor on the map. It wasn't Joe and AJ, Joe and Punk. It was Punk and Raven, because they weren't known for blood at that time. They weren't known for violence, but they were having cage matches, dog collar matches, fight without honors, everything, and it was a bloody feud. And Raven actually taught Punk how to deliver promos. The really bad thing is Raven's legacy will never be remembered. Raven brought the Dudleys into wrestling. Stevie Richards, he was his best lackey in ECW. But you also had Primetime Brian Lee was in there as well. Raven started as Scotty Flamingo and actually lived in Washington, and he actually started in this area in the Pacific Northwest, and it was a great monster. He was a great heel. He went to WCW. He was a light heavyweight champion, junior heavyweight champion. He reinvented himself as Johnny Polo, where he was, Vince didn't see anything with him, so he was literally an announcer. He worked with creative, and he also managed the Quebecers. But when he went to ECW, he completely reinvented himself, became Raven, and it was a very interesting character. Now, if you take away the WWE run, his career was awesome. And his moveset, I always loved it. Russian leg sweep, the snap suplexes. He is the creator of the drop toe hold into the chair. He came up with that, and it was awesome. And his DDT is on par with Jake the Snake Roberts' DDT. Raven's DDT was something, a beauty, something great. And I really love his look. The jean shorts, the flannel shirt wrapped around the midsection, comic book t-shirts before people wearing comic book t-shirts in the ring, black leather jacket with a rip on the back, kind of curly hair, a little beard. Raven was the emphasis of grunge, and he was like a tortured soul, the ultimate tortured soul. He had a feud with Tommy Dreamer, and his feud with the Sandman will live in history as 2 of the best feuds in wrestling. Now, people always talk about Steamboat and Flair and everything, but if you really go in detail, for 7 years, Raven and Dreamer. And what happened? It took until the end of Raven's first run for Dreamer to beat Raven. But he had put everything in his path, and every time Dreamer thought he was going to beat him, something else happened. They really built a story. And Raven is one of the most underrated talents in the industry. People don't see how great Raven was. Raven, even though he wasn't being pushed, was having good matches with Undertaker, Austin. He had matches with Rock. He had matches with Kurt. He had matches with Benoit in there, with Jericho. With Kane. So WrestleMania 17 Hardcore Championship, Big Show, Kane, and Raven. That was a great match. Raven took a sick bump though when he got thrown through a glass window. But he was just really good. And I don't think people really see that. And I wish people saw that Bray Wyatt is nothing more than a Raven ripoff. I want to do this profile so you guys really know. If you guys like this, maybe I'll do some more profiles. But it's beginning of the year. I figured, why not start off with Raven?